Many of you in registering for this let me know that you are have family members who are living with dementia, and many of you are professionals who are also who work with people living with dementia, and many of those professionals like myself have family members who are living with dementia. So we are all in this together. And so I'm really grateful for you all to be here together around this topic about understanding the progression, because things change, sometimes quickly, sometimes more slowly. So thank you. So we will get started. We have, it looks like we have about 97 people online right now. We actually had about 200, more than 200 people signed up for this. So we're excited to have everybody to be joining us. Okay, so today's workshop and all of our workshops are part of the Positive Approach to Care training and dementia education program. So Positive Approach to Care was developed by Tipa Snow, founded by Tipa Snow, and the website for them is tipasnow.com. And it helps, this is what we use at Hale for our training program for our staff and all of these workshops. We really want to start from the place of understanding what's happening with the brain as we age, both with normal aging and also when things happen that make it not normal aging, especially dementia, and to figure out how we can understand those changes and look at the world, put ourselves in their shoes, and not just their shoes, their bodies, their eyes, their senses, and understand how people who are living with dementia are perceiving the world, and then figure out how we can adjust our approach in the environment and all those things. And really starting with the place that we all recognizing that people living with dementia are really doing the best they can at every single moment. Sometimes that best they can is not that great, but it's still the best they can. So we're gonna, that's our starting point for all of these. So today we're gonna look at how we feel about these types of changes and how that affects our perceptions, affect our reactions and our ability to help, or sometimes hinder our ability to help. To discuss the importance of how we talk about it. What do we call these changes? How do we describe them? We're going to be looking at Positive Approach to Care's GEMS model, which is I'll go into more detail on this, but it's a model of looking at what the changes are from normal aging all the way through the end of life, living with dementia, and looking at what's lost, of course, but also what's retained, because all the way through the end of life there is still retained abilities. If we can understand what that is, what is left there, we can understand how to reach and connect at all times, all the way through the end of life. And of course, question and answer. But before we get started into the gems, I want to make sure that we all have a common understanding about what is this thing called dementia that we're all came together here today about, myself included as a family member and as a professional. Dementia, this slide with the umbrella, is the umbrella term for the cognitive changes that you're seeing caused by different diseases or other things that affect or damage the brain. So you'll see on one side of this umbrella, Alzheimer's disease is a very big raindrop, frontotemporal, Lewy bodies, vascular dementias, those are all very common, so strokes, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. And then on the other side, ones that you might not hear about quite so often, but alcohol-related dementia. Football players, we all know too many hits in the head will also cause dementias. So dementia itself is not the disease. All these other things underneath are what's causing the brain damage and progressive degenerative brain failure for people who are living with dementia. And you can have more than one of these. So you can have Alzheimer's disease and have had lifelong alcohol addiction and alcoholism that's affecting your brain. So it's a complicated picture. So each of us is a unique individual, and each of these causes of dementia is unique, and they affect you individually. So we'll take a quick look at a brain scan so that we can see what these changes are that we're talking about. So this brain on the left, this is the top picture and the bottom picture. You can kind of see my cursor moving around there. The top is the front of the brain, so your frontal lobe, if you touch the front of your head, and then the back here back here. That's your occipital lobe in the back of your head. So it's two slices of your brain. So two different areas. So this is a normal adult. They're all about the same age who does not have any Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia. So you can see the PET scan function. Red is burning hot. Red is the most active brain function there, and then goes down to blue, which is inactivity, and that's normal. All brains have some pockets of fluid that are not active brain waves there. And then early Alzheimer's. So if you look at these two and you pause for a moment and think about it, what do you notice? What do you notice the biggest differences in colors are? So you're probably noticing a lot less red and a lot more blue-purple. So a lot less that hot activity and a lot more inactivity. When I show this slide to our staff at Hale, I always like to point out that this is the early Alzheimer's column, not the middle, not the late. So people with early Alzheimer's who are not living with us in a long-term care facility, necessarily at home, living independently, possibly driving, managing their own finances, and they, on the outside, look, the same in some ways. They're elderly, but the same as the person in the normal column, age-wise, but cognitively, in the brain function, there is still a big change. So it's something to keep in mind as we start looking at the gems, that remember this big change from the normal to the early. These two brain scans here, when you look at it again, what do you notice about the colors? Much, much, much less red. Almost all purple, but not all. Not all. They're still red. There's still activity. This is the limbic system, the more primitive center of your brain, and the occipital, your vision. That's your thrive to survive center, still there. They're still there. They're different. They are who they were, but they're different now. But they're still there. And then this here is a child's 18-month-old child. So if you look at these two, I know all of you are saying, boy, those two look remarkably alike. There's different functions. So we're not born with this brain here on the left. We start out with a brain that's developing, and we grow into the one you see on the far left from the far right. So we would never look at an 18-month-old child and think, oh, they can't do anything, poor things, they can't feed themselves, they're incontinent of bowel and stool. And we know that even though they can't communicate the way we do, there are still ways to connect. The same is true, and it's not that they're children, but the same is true for people at all stages of their brains are different than ours, have different abilities now because of the changes, because of the diseases under that umbrella, but they're still there. They can still be loved and connected with. And so that's where we're going to take a look. So I'm going to go forward here. So this is the PET scan shows the activity. I just want to show this one slide of actual brains. So the normal brain, these generous individuals donated their brains after death, no disease process, and then here Alzheimer's disease on the right. So in addition to the chemical changes that happen because of the disease, in this case Alzheimer's, there's actual physical changes. So the cells are shrinking and dying, and inside there are holes developing too. So there's actual physical changes, and it's hard for us to keep these in mind, things like what the PET scan looks like or what the physical brain looks like, because we can't see those things. But what we can see are the changes that they're showing us without having to peer inside their brains. The way language changes, the way their movement changes, the way decision-making changes. All those things are signs of the function of different parts of the brains that we can see and we can understand and figure out where they are on this journey without a PET scan or without post-mortem changes. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So I wanted to introduce my grandmother. So I talk about my grandmother in some of my other webinars, but I especially like to bring her in with me to this webinar because my grandmother helped raise me. You can see me in that little photo back in the 60s. And then lived with us, lived with my mother all the way until she passed away. And she had Alzheimer's disease. And so at the time when she was living with her journey of Alzheimer's, we, meaning me and my mother and the rest of our family, didn't know anything about dementia. And we were just doing the best we could, which is all any of us can do at any point. But, and we thought that, this is just part of getting old. You get to be, however old, you get senile. That's just how it is. And so we didn't think anything of it. She was, the changes we were seeing, we thought she was, things were annoying or, frustrating, but we didn't understand what was going on. So you can see here in hindsight, the first signs were in about 1985. And of course, now if I saw any of those signs at this moment, I would know immediately what it is, but I didn't have the knowledge and experience. And it kind of can creep up on you too, the little changes over time. But she was not diagnosed formally until about 92. So that's a big change. So I'll share some more things about my grandmother and her journey as we go through. That's she and I at my wedding. So, okay. All right. So I want to take a moment to look, my little thing cut off the word description, to think about how we talk about dementia, the changes that come with dementia. And so either if you have taken your loved one to a physician or some other kind of practitioner and gotten a diagnosis of dementia, or has had someone talk to you about dementia, there may be certain scales that they use to tell you where they are. They might say, your mother has mild dementia or mid-stage dementia, or your mother's a 3 or a 5, numbers, words. Yeah, there's all these different scales. So I'm gonna pop some of these up on the screen. I'd like you to kind of to yourself, you can do it physically if you want to think about how you feel about each of these systems, these scales. And for the professionals out there, some of these might be ones that you use every day, and they're very useful. You have to understand what each of the scales, how far it goes, and what the traits are. But let's see. Here we go. Okay, so the first one, if you go in and you say this is just normal aging, how do you feel about that? Nope, your mother's good. Normal aging. Thumbs up. Probably mostly thumbs up on this one. Very mild. We're seeing some changes, but they're pretty mild still, right? Thumbs up. Sometimes your thumbs might still be starting to tip down a little bit. And then you start getting to the mild or moderate. So it's getting a little more serious. And then the last, moderately severe. Both thumbs are probably going down at this point. Very severe, down. So if you are given any of these diagnoses, or let's say moderate or even mild, one is better than the other, right? We all want the one that's before it, or ideally the very first one, normal. But and all of these look at really closely at what is lost. What is lost? So let's look at this next one. Early, middle, late. Early, middle, late. Think about those three. So when you're trying to describe a person living with dementia, the difference between moderate or moderately severe, or early, middle, or middle, late, it can be a little blurry to think about. So what exactly does that mean? It's giving you a place and time, but it doesn't really describe what the person can do now and what abilities are retained. So I'm going to do one more, which is numeric. So there are many numeric systems: 1 to 3, 1 to 5, 1 to 7, and then 6 to 1. So reverse numbers. I often get calls at Hale when someone will say, we just came back from the geriatrician and they say that it's moderate dementia, or they say my mother's a 4, or, but that doesn't tell me that much. I can't actually understand what their needs are at that level, because they're mostly comparative to the one before it, as more than speaking about where they are. So I'm going to up to this next one. So the GEMS, positive approach to care GEMS, these are based on the Allen cognitive levels, which is an occupational therapy scale, which goes 6 to 1. That's the 6 to 1, where 6 is quote unquote the best, and 1 would be quote unquote the worst. So with those number scales or the word scales, there's a lot of judgment in theirs, and want us to, the GEMS model and the GEMS language helps us step away from the judgment of where a person is in their journey. Because when you're living with dementia, and for those of us who are supporting those who are living with dementia, it's not about better or worse or early or late. It's about who they are in this moment. One is not better than the other. They're still who they were and the people we love and that we want to support and care for and carry them through the whole of their lives. So with the gemstones, so you can see there are 6 of them. So back to, this is based on the Allen cognitive levels. So 6 being at the top and 1 being at the bottom there. But each is a gemstone that is precious and unique and requires a certain setting and care for that particular gem. So the other thing that I really like about the GEMS model is I like how it's arranged in a wheel, and we are included in this wheel. So it's not about us, people who are, let's say, not living with dementia, and them, those who are living with dementia, and we're 2 different kinds of people. We're not. We're all the same. We're all human beings with brains that are aging, with brains that are being affected by different things, whether it's disease process or let's say, brain damage from other causes. So we're all in this boat together, and we are the first one, the sapphire gem, the sapphire. So each of these gems, if you were to look at the gem themselves and think about what they're like as gemstones. Sapphires are blue, true blue. You may have heard the term. They're flexible. It's kind of a calming color. We are the ones, the sapphires, that support all the other gems, the diamonds, emeralds, amber, ruby, and pearl. So we are the ones that are able to help through this journey. So sapphires, true blue, slower but fine. Not that there aren't any cognitive changes that come with aging without dementia. So those of you who came to my previous one, and then the recording of normal versus not normal aging is on the Holly K website. There are changes that happen as we age. It might take us longer to come up with a certain word. What was, and why did I come in this room? I have to think for a moment. I have to go back and sit in that chair I was sitting in. Oh, right. I came in here for coffee. I have to go back and start over. Many of you might have experienced that. And as you get older, sometimes I have very young people in my workshops and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But certain things do take longer, and that is normal. The slower, it doesn't mean I can't do it, but I might have to slow down a little bit. I might not multitask as well as I did. Take me a little longer. I need you to turn off that music so I can think. That's all normal aging. The next one, diamonds. So if you think about the diamond gemstone, the diamond is the flashiest, the most expensive, right? And it's multifaceted and can really, really shine. And if you think about the stone itself, it's very, very hard and it's created under pressure, right? Very under pressure. So it can be very cut. You can use it in industry to cut. So each of these gems, you'll see as we go through, I'm going to be linking, and the Positive Portrait Care Tipa Snow GEMS model links qualities that we can remember about the gemstone to help us remember what some of the person who might be living in this stage of their dementia is experiencing. So the way diamonds are hard and rigid, so too might a person who's living in a diamond state in the earlier stages of dementia be very hard and rigid and unforgiving and cutting. And so we think they're just being mean and I don't see why we can't do this a different way, but no, it has to be this way. Oh, my grandmother's so stubborn. I don't take a breath and remember doing the best they can in this moment. And because of those brain stages, remember that early PET scan, early diamond, emerald, early PET scan. Emerald, the next 3 is emeralds, amber, rubies are the colors of the stop sign, stop light. So green is go, yellow is caution, slow down, red is ruby, red is stop, And so these gems have kind of tie into their colors and also tie into the gem. So emeralds, true emeralds, the stone, have a flaw in them, not man-made emeralds, but true emeralds. So there's a flaw in the gem, unlike diamonds, which appear clear and flawless. Emeralds have a flaw. But me, the person who's living in this emerald state, this stage of my dementia, I'm making mistakes. I have flaws, and I am not aware of them. You are, but I'm not. And I'm on the go, and I might be where I'm going. I don't know. I might be going, but I might be even traveling in time. You're looking for someone who's passed already, but I'm always on the go. And then Amber, we'll go into more detail on Amber's. One of the people find the most challenging stages, the gem state, because I'm very in the moment. I'm all about the sensations. I might still be on the go, and I'm all about what feels good. And I just get into things, and you're having to watch me constantly, and it's exhausting. Rubies, I'm starting to lose fine motor control. I might be having trouble getting started, or is having trouble stopping once I get started. Things are starting to stop. So red for stop. And then the last one, pearls. So if you put your hand like this and think of an oyster shell hidden in a shell. So I'm reaching the end of my journey, reaching the end of my life. But if you with the right setting and care, you can open that oyster shell, and inside is the beautiful pearl. So how we look at this matters. So if you think about, talking about, with another family member, or as a professional talking with families about what's happening, with them, the different stages of this person's journey, it's not all about loss. And how would it feel to be saying, my mother was, a pretty strong emerald, but I'm starting to see she's getting lost in time. I'm noticing she's making mistakes like she didn't before, and I think she's showing some more emerald traits. So that's so she is another precious gem, and changes are happening, and I can see them. And this framework of gems allows us to be able to talk about them and share what's happening without that kind of judgment about diamonds being better than emeralds, or emeralds being better than pearls, because they're not. Right? So it's not untreatable. It is incurable, but it's not untreatable. How we care for each of these gems makes a difference. It makes a difference. So there are things that can make life better for both of us. And behaviors don't come out of nowhere, and it doesn't just affect the person living with dementia. It's all of us. These people we love living with dementia, these individual gems cannot get from sometimes one moment to the next without our help and support. We take up the difference of things that they are unable to do, but together we make a whole person to be able to move from one moment to the next. So why use the gems? We talked about this a little bit. The language makes a difference about how we see and perceive them and think about them. It's the Allen cognitive theory, and each gem can shine. Each one needs a very different setting. So someone who's living in the diamond state, very different needs than someone who's all the way at ruby, for example. And if I tried to get both of those two, especially for those professionals out there, ruby, let's say diamonds and ambers, to be doing the same thing at the same time, let's say in an activity table or dining together, they are different states. That might cause a lot of problems. So it allows us to get beyond the words too of dementia and Alzheimer's, and to open the door to talk about the changes. And that's where we really want to do. We want to look at, find a way to talk about the changes, because it's all about brain change. And it isn't even about figuring out which exact gem is. It's not a sticker we're going to stick on someone, because it can change. It can change over time. It can change because of the progression of the disease, depending what it is, faster or slower. It can change because of stress or infection. Someone gets a UTI. So it's a way for us to talk about what the changes are that we're seeing. So let's take a look a little closer at ourselves, because we are so crucial to this, to the relationship and to this process. Sapphires, that's us. We have the ability to be flexible. And when we are under stress, I'm going to flip forward to the diamond here. We too can become diamonds. Of course, if we're sick or things like that, we can become rigid and inflexible. And caregivers, what kind of stress are we under when we're working with our 85-year-old mother-in-law? It's like they're like, no, you can't go down those stairs. Oh my God, my brain lights up on fire when I see danger. And that is true for all of us. And we get stuck, and we become rigid and inflexible. We start repeating ourselves too. Get your walker, get your walker. How many times have I told you? It's like, whew. So, but with the difference between sapphire, for us as sapphires, if we could recognize those moments when we become rigid and inflexible, when we find ourselves just butting heads, to pause. And I would encourage you to make this timeout symbol. Take a deep breath, because whatever you need to do to calm down, to regain your sapphire state, because one person is living with dementia and can't do anything about it. The other person is the one who can take a step back. And sometimes it means taking a step back and someone else stepping in. But when two are butting heads, there's no winning. Arguing, pushing only leads to more pushing. I don't know about you, but have you ever won an argument with someone who's living with dementia? Even when you know you are so right? No, Dad died 10 years ago. I told you. I just don't. You're right, and you are right, and it's hard. Oh, I'm taking a breath now. It's hard to know that you're right, and yet to let go of that. It's the person who's living with dementia, the reality is different. So if I could know that my husband passed away 20 years ago, I would, but I'm living in a different time. So it's hard for us to let go of that very often. So I want to flip here. So for yourself, I want you to take a moment, just take a little moment, take a breath. And if you could jot down on a piece of paper for yourself, just think of one thing. You can, later on, you can think of more if you want to, but one thing that causes you to get that kind of stressed frame of mind and maybe get rigid and flexible. And what one thing might you try when you feel that happening next time for yourself, might you try to regain your composure and calm? Each of us, it might be different. For some of us, it might be stepping into the bathroom and locking the door for 10 minutes and doing deep breathing. Others, it might be taking a walk, singing a song, whatever you need. Each of us is unique. So just think for a moment, just write one of your triggers and one thing that you'll try. Because in the moment when it's actually happening is you're not thinking so well, it's hard to remember. But if you can kind of plan ahead a little bit and think about it and give it a try, and you'll have to make adjustments to this little mini plan, but learning a coping mechanism, and it's caring for yourself too, because you are as important as the person that you're caring for. Your mental health helps their mental health. You're in this together. So, okay, I'm going to go forward here. So I'm going to go to emeralds here. So we've moved away from the sapphire and diamond, the earliest. Actually, I'm going to go back just one thing real quick. One other thing about diamonds. So we talked about being hard and rigid and flexible. The dollar signs at the bottom. So diamonds, the stone, are the most expensive stone. But often in this stage of dementia, we might find a real focus, and maybe a obsession about money. It could be someone stealing my money. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. Just really focusing, always checking the wallet, checkbook, making mistakes with money, things like that. So the money, which is a very common thing you'll see for people living with dementia, that is one of the things that you can kind of tie in with that stage. For emeralds, you'll start to notice. So again, we're noticing changes. It's all about noticing changes. So diamonds were clear and sharp. And the caregiver living at home, might be tearing your hair out, and you're seeing that this person is not functioning like they used to. And then someone else comes in, let's say another sibling or something, comes to say, I just talked to mom, she seems fine. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think she has dementia. Well, I'm clear and sharp, and for short periods and with general social chit chat, I can do pretty well. And it's easy to think, oh, well, you know, oh, maybe it's just had a bad day, or, just not feeling well. We just kind of make do and go by and don't notice the changes. I would pause here for a moment to encourage keeping a journal and keeping notes, because when you want to talk to the physician about the changes you're seeing over time, it's hard to remember. So write down those moments. Now you don't have to log everything every day, but just little things that you're noticing, because as the person that you're caring for is progressing, it'll come to the point where it's not deniable, and this is the emerald stage. So it's no longer clear. There's no question to anybody that my clothes are on the wrong way, or I'm getting lost in familiar places, right? Maybe if I was driving before, I get lost going just around the corner. I might get lost in my own house. Where did you put the bathroom? What are you talking about, Mom? Bathroom? No, you moved it. It doesn't even make sense. Our brains are like, I've lost my map of the world in my head, and I can't do anything about it. So take notes. So I am not aware of it. Amber. So amber is a little different kind of gemstone. It's you remember Jurassic Park, the tree sap falls down, catches that mosquito, and then it fossilizes and becomes the gemstone amber, and they extract the dinosaur DNA from that mosquito. But anyway, so that amber is a moment in time that's fossilized. So I am stuck in this moment in time, and the time is now. Past, future, not relevant. Now, what I see, what I hear, what I feel, that's what I know. And I'm all about sensation. So if this shirt is itching me, I'm going to take it off. I'm going to try to anyway. And it doesn't matter if I'm in the lobby of the facility or we're in Costco or wherever we are, because I'm just about the now and the sensation. And things I like, I'll seek out more. And things I don't like, I'm not tolerant of a sensation, but I seek out sensation. So places in my body, our bodies, that are very high sensory input. What are those places? Your mouth and nose, no, fingertips, tips of your toes. If you wiggle those tips of your toes, genitals, right? High sensory, lots of nerve endings at all these places. Right? So I start those places become even more sensitive. Where do we give personal care? All those same places. Teeth, clipping my fingernails, toenails, peri care, bathroom care. Oh my goodness, I might be fighting. It's like, what is going on? She's acting like I'm trying to kill her. I'm on sensory overload. It's too much. It's too much. It's not that I'm trying to be difficult. It is difficult. It's difficult for both of us. I'm trying to stop this sensory overload, and it's very, 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 very challenging. Oh, rubies. Ruby has hidden depth, such a beautiful, beautiful gemstone, so deep. But the red light, the stop, is on fine motor. So I'm really having a hard time. So if you hold your hands out, and you use your thumb, pointer, and middle finger, these are your skill fingers, fine motors, for threading a needle, buttoning a button, things like that. Very fine, busy little fingers. And then your ring finger and your pinky, if you squeeze those down, kind of make a fist starting with your pinky, that's your strength fingers, right? So hammer, holding a hammer, pliers, things like that. So we start to lose, not just the fingers, other parts too, but fingers are a good example. Your skill, your fine motor skill, but you keep the strength. So you'll start to notice things like, I'm not holding the spoon or fork the way I did before. I might be holding it with my whole hand, with my strength fingers. You start to see me do more things with my strength fingers than with my skill fingers. My feet and my gait, I start to have more trouble with that. My vision becomes monocular, whereas it's not that I'm blind in one eye, but I can't process more information than one. I start to have trouble with depth perception, which increases my risk of falling, and my sleep wake patterns are really starting to have a hard time. And it's because of those changes in the brain. I'm moving, remember those PET scans? So there was the normal, the early, and then the late. I'm approaching the late. There's been a lot of change for me. And then the pearl. So if you make that oyster shell, and there's a nice picture of the oyster shell there. If you look at the oyster shell, what do you notice? It's hard and rigid and sharp, and it's not very beautiful. And the body towards the end of life for someone who's living with dementia can be very hard to look at in terms of I've lost so much weight. I'm skin and bones. I'm contracted, so my muscles are on, but I can't uncontract them, and it's not because it's involuntary, and it's part of the shutting down of my brain. If you try and open it up, you can't have danger of her injuring me because I can't relax them. So it becomes very hard to connect because I'm shut down in that shell. But with the right care, it is possible. If you just peek that open, there are moments that they are still there, 100%. So I want to come back to my grandmother. So I mentioned she wasn't diagnosed till about 1990. And so that still took a couple years before she had to move in with my parents in 92. But she didn't pass away under home hospice care until 2001. So her journey was very long. It was about 16 years. Again, in the hindsight, my hindsight diagnosis of when she started showing symptoms. Of course, the dementia, the changes from Alzheimer's were happening in her brain before the obvious symptoms were happening. So it was long. It was a longer than 16-year journey for her. Her, like for many people, her symptoms did not become obvious to us, even though we didn't know they were dementia, until after my grandfather passed away. Which was he passed away in 91. And it wasn't until a few years after that we were able to really see where the changes that had happened. 81 had happened with her. So my grandmother, that's her sister Gladys. And so I noted on here that they were born in Japan. And so when they were together, they always spoke Japanese together. When my grandmother was at the end of her life at home, at her hospice care, she was a pearl. And she was contracted and her eyes were closed most of the time, just like that shell. And we would, be there and hold her hand and talk to her, but not much response. And it's easy to think that, they tell you, even at that long ago, they tell you they can still hear you, so just, but my grandmother's sister, we live in Hauula in the country. So it was like country mouse, city mouse. And her sister lived in Kahala, which seems so fancy to us from Hauula. But she did not like to ride in cars, but she came out, my cousin brought her out as my grandmother was getting towards the end of her life. And she came to visit us and she went into my grandmother's room and she spoke to her in Japanese. And my aunt's familiar voice, familiar language. My grandmother had started reverting to Japanese only, even though we don't speak Japanese. My mother flunked out of Japanese school and I only took a couple of years in high school, long forgotten. And she opened her eyes and they spoke. And I don't know if my grandmother was making sense or not, but I know 100% she was there in that moment. And that shell opened up and there was two sisters again together. And so much had changed for her and with her cognitive abilities, but it didn't make her any less person or my grandmother. So, and I really do always get choked up when I tell a story, but she taught me so many things, and her journey with dementia was a big part of it too. From the mistakes that we made, the times that we weren't patient and we were intolerant and we made things worse. And there were times we made things better. And then this was one of them, so that family coming together to have this moment of connection right at the end of life. And she did pass away just a day or two after that. And so she was very, very close to the end of life. So I really, something I want to communicate to everyone that sometimes people will say, and they don't, not meaning badly, it's just that you don't know how to connect. should I even visit anymore? They're not going to remember I came. Or, I don't know what to say. That's understandable. It's okay. But together we can learn and we can make connections at every stage, every gem level. So this next, I have to take a breath now. This next slide, I'm going to be sending you these next 2 slides. So this is a summary of a little more detail than we're able to go into this 1 hour webinar about each of the gems. And you can see a little more specifics about things. So for example, with the diamonds here, let's see. Trusted authority figures can help, reacts better when respect is mutual. So for example, with my grandmother, nothing my mother would say would, she wouldn't listen to anything my mother would say, but if her doctor said it, or like I told you, she came from Japan, right? Her firstborn son, her eldest son, firstborn son said it, same thing. Oh, that was the word of God. So, we have to understand that that's not just part of it was culture for her, but also part of it was her being in that diamond state. That's the structure that she needed, and to take advantage of that. So we did learn to use those authority figures to help her make changes that would have been hard for her to accept from her daughter or her granddaughter, because whether it's no offense to us, but and then on the flip side of this handout that you'll be getting, I really like how this, each one you see it's in quotes, it's from the perspective of the person living in that place in their journey. It's for the emerald, it says, "I am flawed. It is a part of being a natural emerald." So it's kind of, sometimes I even like to read this out loud to myself to think about what it's like at each of those states. So I want to play this couple short videos before we get to the very end. This is Tipa Snow, who developed the GEMS model and is the founder of Positive Approach to Care. And this is her doing a role playing. She's from, you'll notice she has an accent. She lives in North Carolina. And about repetitive questions, repetitive stories, which happens very often in the early diamond stage. So I'm going to play this video.
Hey, listen. Hey, baby, did I ever tell you I was from West Virginia?
Yes, you did. That's very nice.
I did?
Yes.
When did I tell you that? I didn't tell you that. Who's been talking about me? Who has told you about me? See, this is what pisses me off. You and your damn big mouth. You have no business telling her. Uh-oh. Now what happens to her? She's going to get hit. What happens to me? I get drugs. What happens to her? Nothing. Who started it? Her, because she insisted I had already told her. Here's the problem. Do I remember that I've already told her? Can I remember that I've already told her? So here's what you want to do. Instead of saying, yeah, you did, or no, you didn't, instead, what you want to say, here's the phrase, tell me about it. Tell me about it doesn't encourage you to lie or tell the truth. What it does is open the door, because that's really what I want you to do anyway. I want to talk. Will you listen is what I'm actually asking. When I ask, have I ever told you I'm from West Virginia? So what you want to do is just say, tell me about it. Tell me about it is the right answer. Doesn't matter whether I've told you before or not, because what it says is you want to listen. Okay, so let me give you another chance because I'm nice. Hey, listen, honey, have I ever told you I'm from West Virginia?
Tell me about that.
Yeah, hey, look here, my grandma raised me on a farm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hey, listen, do you know how to kill a chicken?
No, I don't.
Yeah, look here, look, take it by the neck, hold to it, and ring it round real hard. Honey, its head will pop off.
Oh, that's nice.
Do it outside because they run and they'll bleed all over. So don't do it in the house. Make you a good chicken, though.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, listen, did I ever tell you I was from West Virginia?
Tell me about that.
Yeah, there you go. Good job. Now, when you're tired of hearing my story, because how many times am I going to tell you my story? 40. Oh, lots, because I like to have you connected. What are you going to do? Yeah, bingo. Now, here's the deal. What we used to say is, oh, don't let them tell their stories too often. That might take them back in time. You know what? There's not a thing you can do about it. And we have actually learned that reminiscing and telling those stories is a good thing. Because what you actually do when you have them tell those stories, you fire up their brain cells. And it keeps the ones they have alive, functioning, because they're burning brain cells. They're actually making them work. They're firing. It's happening. Those synapses are making those connections. That's a good thing. The other reason you want to learn those stories, as the disease progresses, I will lose the ability to tell my stories. And it's really important on a bad day that you know my stories.
Okay. Yeah, it can be, I know with my grandmother, the repetitive questions and the repetitive stories can be trying sometimes, but definitely saying that, yeah, you told me that already, it leads to that kind of headbutting that I mentioned in the beginning. The next one, short video I wanted to show you, is Tipa supporting a woman who is more far along in her journey, and Amber. So if you remember, Amber, stuck in a moment of time, slow down. That includes language. So in the diamond one, you heard a lot of language from Tipa, who was being the diamond, and also from the people interacting with her. So I want you to watch in this video the pace of the lady's name is Alice, who's living with dementia, and the pace of Tipa and her language. And also everything, people who are living with dementia as the disease progresses, get more information from what you show them, visual cues, than anything that comes out of your mouth. And especially now, you think of us with the masks on for the pandemic, visual cues are so important. When the words are, the comprehension is, they're losing words both for speech and also for comprehension. So take a look at this one and see if you can notice the visual cues and the touch cues that she'll do with each step.
That's it. Good. Nice. Oh, yeah. Yeah. A little bit more right here. Do right here. And right over here on this side, Miss Alice. Good. Alice, ouch. You got a rat there. There you go. Good. Okay. Little tangle. Do right over here. Right on that side. Right over here. Can you get right here? Brush right there. There you go. And now the back. Do the back of your hair. It's looking good. Right back here. Can you get right back here? Right back here. How's that? Good. Thank you. Can I have a hug? Nice work. Nice work. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your help.
Oh, so did you notice the visual cues on her own body and then on Alice's body? And at the very end, she needed a little help, hand in her hand, getting her hand to the back. But who did all the combing? She did it herself. And were they able to communicate? Even though Alice wasn't using any words, little nods, pauses, everything took a little longer. Trapped in that amber, everything is slower, takes longer. So for us to wait, it is very hard to wait. It's hard to not keep talking. It's hard not to take that brush and just do it yourself. But given that space and that grace to try with that support that she needed, she really can do a lot, even though her dementia is getting quite far along. So all individuals, so the parting message in a sense, all individuals, whatever their state of being, including us, the sapphires, because we need the right setting and the right care too. With the right setting and the right care can shine. So I want to thank everyone for joining me for this kind of introduction to the gems. That handout that I'll be sending will have more information. There is also a GEMS app. I'll send you a link to that. It's for iPhones and Androids. That's actually a pretty great, more in depth, that includes more specifics about how to help at each gem state too. So I want to do a real quick look at the true or falses that you answered. So this one is false. When someone repeats themselves over and over, not a good idea to remind them that they already said that, because they don't know. If I knew I'd said it before, I wouldn't be saying it again. Arguing and correcting someone, even when they're wrong, you're not gonna win that one. We meet them where they are in their journey. And it involves a lot of being wrong, even though you know you're right. But it makes for more harmonious and productive relationship overall. Giving someone strong orders, meaning ordering them around, is the best way to do something. If in the early stage, if you think of those strong cutting diamonds, how far are you going to get with bossing a diamond around? Not very far. So that is false. Sometimes you have to wait a long time. Yes. Sometimes I count to myself in my head to make myself not talk. So I'll say, I'm Dorothy and you are, and I know what their name is, but I'll count to myself 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, just to make myself be able to wait, because it's a hard thing. It's hard to wait. Because sometimes it could be 30 seconds or before you get a nod or some kind of acknowledgement. And the last one is false. There's nothing a caregiver can do to communicate at the end stage. That is false. Communication takes many forms. Touch communication, music. I know with my example with my grandmother, reaching them on the, well, in her case, using her first language. So there are more webinars coming up. I believe next month is on activities. You can find out more about Halikwiki at halikwiki.com, and also about the more webinars and Positive Approach to Care at tipasnow.com. Recordings of this webinar will be on our Halikwiki website. We did a whole series with Catholic Charities and the grant for the Hawaii Circle of Care for Dementia, and that is also 6 different webinars are up there at their site. So